a native of Canton, Illinois. He is a noted author, speaker, and consultant specializing in the history of U.S. military special operations. He has authored 11 books and has had major articles published in VFW, Army, Behind the Lines, The Writer, Heartland USA, and other magazines. His first book, Silent Warriors of World War II, was the first published history of the famous Alamo Scouts and was optioned by Universal Studios. He's appeared on and consulted for programs appearing on the History Channel, PBS, Japan Television, Somewhat Entertainment, Flashback Television, and for the Miramax Studios on the motion picture The Great Raid. He is a former Director of Public Information and Sports Information at Monmouth College and was nominated for the Bernard Dial Award for Excellence in Military History. He is also a historian for the Alamo Scouts Historical Foundation and editor of Recon Magazine. Mr. Zedric has taught special education in Peoria, Illinois for 26 years and was the 2018 recipient of the prestigious Elite Susie Russell Teacher of the Year Award and was a multi-recipient of the Children's Home Educator of the Year Award. He received a Bachelor of Arts in History from Monmouth College and holds a Master of Arts in History from Western Illinois University. He's a graduate of the U.S. Army Intelligence School, and during his 4 years in the Army, he served as an intelligence analyst in the Republic of Korea. He served at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, and in support of coalition forces during the Gulf War. He was a two-time member of the U.S. Army All-Army track and field team and was inducted into the Monmouth College Athletic Hall of Fame in 2014, the Spoon River College Hall of Fame in 2019, and he was a member of the 1978 Canton High School football team that was inducted into the Canton High School Hall of Fame. Mr. Zedric and his wife, Ching, who is with us today, live in Peoria, and their daughter, Ariel, attends law school at Northwestern University in Boston, Massachusetts. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Lance Zedric.
Thank you, Martin. Fellow veterans, guests, old friends, and new ones, and everyone at American Legion Post 136. I'm honored to be back in my college hometown to speak on one of the most hallowed of our national observances, that being Veterans Day, and not the annual Monmouth College Knox football game, although it's up there. The late great social philosopher, World War II veteran, and Hall of Famer Yogi Berra once said, "That place is so crowded nobody goes there anymore." Well, that might apply to Veterans Day speeches as well. And in preparing my remarks, I pondered what I could say that hasn't been said. I considered talking about how Veterans Day was originally called Armistice Day in honor of the ending of hostilities on the 11th hour, the 11th month, the 11th day of 1918, ending the Great War. Or mentioning how President Eisenhower changed that in 1954 to honor the millions of veterans that served in World War II and recently in the Korean War. But everybody already knows that. It's been told 1,000 times, so there's no use mentioning it today. I considered opening with some 400-year-old quote by William Shakespeare, eloquently describing the timeless brotherhood shared by veterans. You know the one. Old men forget and all things shall be forgotten. From this day to the ending of the world, we shall be remembered, we few, we happy few, we band of brothers. But I doubt that anyone would want to hear that. It's been overused in books and movies and Veterans Day speeches, and I just didn't think it would be appropriate to honor veterans that way. People want to hear something new, like alternative music or something, or maybe not. I also contemplated offering up some good old statistics. And who doesn't love a barrel full of those on a Saturday morning with pending lunch and a college football game looming in the future? I figured I could inform an already knowledgeable crowd that 7% of our population are surviving veterans, around 30 million people. Of those, about 120,000 remain from World War II, some 1 million from Korea, and 6.3 million from Vietnam. Or I might mention that 650,000 survived from the Gulf War, from Desert Storm, 1.7 million from Iraq, another 750,000 from Afghanistan, or that there are 22 million Cold War veterans. But I decided not to do that either because people are bombarded with statistics and information every day and what to believe. But it does make a person wonder when they walk down the street, which 7 out of every 100 people are veterans? Not so much in here. But after all that number crunching, I could still not put my finger on what to say, how to connect to an audience of my peers that has been there and done that. Patriotism, the perfect hook for a Veterans Day speech. What better way to strum the mystic chords of memory with a slice or two of red, white, and blue American apple pie? Some might shed a tear during the playing of the national anthem or sing along with God Bless America. Others might be moved when hearing taps. And I bet that most veterans still have a healthy respect for the American flag and what it stands for. Some wave it proudly, and others not so much. Some might be reminded that the red on Old Glory symbolizes hardiness and valor, and the blue, vigilance and justice. But some might politicize and attach such distinct and beautiful colors to an elephant or a donkey in the room. But if so, I could remind them that the white on our flag symbolizes purity and innocence and unites every American, regardless of which color they prefer, especially on this day. But going down that road might be too controversial, so I scrapped that idea too. But early last month, I stopped in here after the Monmouth College homecoming game to visit a few friends and to check on the temperature of the beer coolers to make sure they were fine operating condition. And when I did, as I usually do, I peeked into the Dunlap room at the rear of the bar to say hello to my old friend, Bobby Dunlap. Now, there were 2 families in there eating, and I didn't want to disturb them, so I returned to the bar. So for the next few weeks, I struggled with what to say here today. But I kept thinking about Bobby's rifle hanging on the back wall, his framed medal array, the Marine Corps flag, the photos of President Truman awarding him the Medal of Honor, and the photos of him with James Stockdale, his first cousin from Abington, who was also a Medal of Honor recipient. There's a lot to think about, but time was running out. But a week ago, everything began to come together. I remembered the 2 families in the Dunlap room enjoying dinner amongst the backdrop of service and valor. And suddenly, to quote Yogi, it was like deja vu all over again. Love and service. Love of comrades, love of country, love of family, and service to the same. In the mid-1990s, Bobby and I had an opportunity to do a couple programs together, and we had a chance to talk a lot privately. On one occasion, I asked him about the Battle of Iwo Jima and what led to him being awarded the Medal of Honor. For those who knew Bobby, you might remember that he was quite a dynamic and animated storyteller when he got going. He told how, as company commander, he crawled 200 yards in front of his own troops and from a shell crater directed naval and artillery bombardment on his own position for 2 days and nights, less 50 yards from the enemy. He then laughed of telling how the Japanese mispronounced his name while throwing grenades, yelling, "Dunlap, Dunlap, give up." All true. And then I asked him why he exposed himself as the company commander so far ahead of his troops. And he said, "I loved my men, and I didn't want to see any of them get hurt." Bobby then teared up, took a deep breath, and added, "I lost too many good boys over there." They were all good boys. 30 years later, I remember that conversation like it was yesterday. Love and service. What greater marriage of deed and duty can there be? So, regarding service, 240 years ago this week, in his farewell address to his troops, General George Washington, commander of the victorious Continental Army, spoke fondly of his troops. For who has before seen a disciplined army formed at once from such raw material? Who that was not a witness could imagine that the most violent local prejudices would cease so soon, and that men who came from different parts of the continent, strongly disposed by the habits of education to despise and quarrel with each other, would instantly become the one patriotic band of brothers. Today, in a similar time of violent prejudices, we are thus assembled, not to launch a revolution, nor to answer a call to arms, or to reaffirm patriotic allegiance, but simply to recognize the service of all veterans, past and present. And in the words of Abraham Lincoln, it is altogether fitting and proper that we should do this. Whether in times of peace or peril, during chaos or calm, through civil strife or world war, honest and noble service has been and will forever be the service member's clarion call. Whether parachutist or pilot, seaman or sergeant, conscript or volunteer, and everything between. Service is the cornerstone of our nation and links veterans from one era to another. A hard-earned connection, forged in peril, tempered by hardship, and burnished by time. An uncommon bond, reaffirmed by a chevron, a uniform, a decal on a truck, or a Legionnaire's cap. It is simple and pure. Let us be reminded that service does not end the day one takes off their uniform. Service to country, service to community, and to family never stops. An ongoing mission to champion citizenship and to defend the liberties we enjoy. To encourage others to help bear the weight of supporting democratic principles through responsible patriotism without glorifying war. To extol core values of honor, duty, and courage. Values not exclusive to veterans, but commonly and exemplified and modeled by that 7%. It is incumbent upon veterans to not only yearly upon this vigil feast and in flowing cups freshly remember, but in Lincoln's words, to bind up the nation's wounds, to care for him and her who have borne the battle. That is, to do the daily work while keeping an eye toward the future. Yes, there is much to do on a grand scale, and the task is daunting, but every veteran can do something. So let us revisit love, the all-encompassing companion to service that gives value to what we do and why we do it. In my work with hundreds of veterans over 40 years, I've had scores of family members say, I never knew Dad did this or that. He never talked about it. Now that he's gone, his story is lost to us. Don't allow your family to live the rest of your life and theirs without knowing something of your service. Most of the 93% who have not served cannot understand some of the physical or emotional trauma and myriad hardships that some veterans might endure, especially those who have experienced war. Nor can any veteran know the depths of another's experience. But all veterans can share something of their service with a family member or a trusted friend. Every veteran has a historical and sentimental footlocker, chock full of names and faces and places and stories waiting to be told. I invite each of you to open that footlocker, to blow away the dust, and to tell a story for the future, to tell your children, young or old. Tell them of your drill sergeant, your best friend, funny times, long runs, bad chows, basic training, the bugs, the heat, the cold, combat, the rain, the mud, mail call, a Dear John letter, or a love lost. Tell them about a wound, sea duty, a dangerous mission, a ship or a plane, KP, the brig, low pay, sick call, a decoration earned, your first haircut, dress inspection, or shining your boots. Tell your family what it's like to follow orders, or to be in command, or to beat your face, or to hurry up and wait. Tell them how scary or lonely or exciting it is serving in another country or a stateside post. Or tell them about Bobby Dunlap, or the bravest person you ever knew. Dig into that footlocker, storage trunk, duffel bag, or sea bag, and rediscover your service. Look through old papers and identify names and places and dates while you still remember them, and scan them and share. Let your family see and touch and smell and ask. Unpack an old uniform and try it on. Okay, bad idea on that. Or let your grandchildren do it. With today's technology and the savvy children and grandchildren, who can master it, there's never been a better time or greater opportunity to record your story, or at least some of it, on a phone or a computer or a laptop or a digital camera. If family doesn't seem to care or seem interested, believe me, they will later, perhaps when it's too late. They don't know what they don't know about your service. Ask them to help, because your story is their story too. Do a little or a lot, but there's no time like yesterday to start. Do this for the ones you love, and maybe for yourself as a way of healing. So what's in your footnote? And so here we are. In the past few minutes, I've bombarded you with over 2,000 words, from Shakespeare to George Washington, from Abraham Lincoln to Douglas MacArthur to Bobby Dunlap, and even a few from Yogi Berra, spanning hundreds of years in the hope that I touched a few familiar bases and delivered a message that resonates on some level and inspires you to action, to build on your legacy of service and to ensure that we never forget those who have worn the uniform. To be sure, you've heard a lot, but at the end of the day, amidst the pomp and circumstance, and in other words, that we will little know nor long remember, there are 5 words that we should never forget, that every veteran longs to hear. Thank you for your service, and thank